Today on the channel, we rotate the tires on this 2014 GX 460. Alright, so let's get started. A few things that you're going to need. One, a screwdriver to take off this center plate of your wheels. You're also going to need a jack and at least 2 jack stands. Now, in theory, if you wanted to, you could have 4 jack stands and you could jack up the whole vehicle, and at that point in time, take off all the wheels and do it like that. I only have 2 jack stands, so I'll be doing the driver's side, and then I'll be going to the passenger side after that. Also, you're going to need a torque wrench because you're going to want to make sure that you torque the bolts back down to spec, which for this vehicle is 83 foot-pounds of torque. And then also, what comes in handy is a breaker bar, and I have an adapter to an extension to then a 21mm socket for the lug nuts. So what I like to do is go ahead and jack up the vehicle just a little bit while there's still tension on this wheel, and then I'm going to go ahead and break all the lug nuts, and then I will go ahead and jack up the front, put it on a jack stand, and then go to the rear and do the exact same thing. Once I have the vehicle all the way up and then all of the weight taken off of the wheels, I will then take the rest of the lug nuts off, take the wheel off, swap them, put them back on, and put them hand tight. And then just another thing, if you're using the jack stand, make sure that where you're jacking it up, you're actually touching the frame of the vehicle. You do not want to jack it up here on these side skirts or side steps, because this is not structural, and you will basically ruin your side skirt here, and that would not be good. So make sure you're up under the frame. Also, in the owner's manual, they do have locations for where you can jack your vehicle, so make sure if you have the owner's manual to look that up. If I can find it, I will put it in the picture right here. Also, that brings me to the point of how Lexus in the owner's manual tells you to rotate your tires. It's basically front to back. Now, I believe in the diagram, which I'll also put right here, it does show on the passenger side that you take the front passenger tire, bring it all the way back, and then that is your new spare, and then you bring the spare out and put it on the back passenger. I've never seen that done. This thing was getting its tire rotated at the Lexus dealership for several years now, and they obviously never did that. Lexus says to do that, so you make sure that everything is getting a good wear and then also usage, and that you're able to take a look at your tires on a regular basis, or every 5,000 miles they should be rotated. But I don't think that in theory ever really gets done, and then you're not going to have the same wheel if you use the spare, so I'm not really sure why that would be, because you then have to take the tire off. But at any rate, so basically all we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking the front and moving them to the back, and the back to the front, and that's going to be the tire rotation. Alright, so we're going to start off by taking the center cap out. So if you see right here, there's a little hole, and that's where you're going to put your screwdriver in, and just easily kind of start wedging it. You'll start to see it coming undone there, and there's going to be another one right down here. Alright, there you go. So it's just held in by these clips all the way around here, and then just pop it out, set it to the side, and then you have access, and then so the whole wheel can come off. And I do have a little bit of tension here on my jack, so this is elevated just a little bit, but it's still touching the ground. So I'm gonna go ahead and take my 21mm socket and then go ahead and just loosen these up, just break them free. Also, these wheels do not come with a locking nut. I know that some do have a special lock key that you have to have. So if you did have that, you would just have to attach that to your breaker bar and then get them free. But mine do not, so one less thing to worry about. So we're gonna go ahead and break these free. Alright, now that those are all broken free, we're going to go ahead and jack it up until the wheel is off the ground and put it on the jack stand. Oh, and also I forgot to mention in the beginning, but make sure that your parking brake is on before you start lifting or taking off anything. And make sure you're on a level surface. All right, now that we have the wheels off, we're gonna go ahead and swap them, put them back on, and get the lug nuts hand tight. Then we'll lower it back down and we'll torque it to spec. All right, just want to show you something real quick. Kind of had a little pucker factor here. One thing that I did find out from rotating these tires is that I'm gonna need, there we go, I'm gonna need jack stands that can be higher. So I would not recommend this whatsoever, but it is something that I had to do. I had a piece of plywood, this is old plywood, and I had to put it under my jack stand to get the wheel high enough. So if you see here, here's the cardboard on the jack stand, or under the jack stand. It did fine, and I was able to swap everything, but I would just recommend that you get jack stands that are tall enough. I guess the suspension travel is so much on this that it actually droops a lot once you start getting it in the air. So I don't know what size these are specifically right now, but I will look them up and I will link them down in the description, so you guys know and know what size larger that you have to get. All right, so we're gonna lower this one in the back just enough to put some weight on the wheel, and then we're gonna go ahead and torque it to spec, 83 foot-pounds. All right, you wanna tighten them just like you loosen them in a star pattern. All right, back wheel's done, now to do the front. All right, that's gonna do it here for the driver's side. Now we have to do the passenger side, put back on the center caps, and then we'll check tire pressure to make sure that's good, and then we'll be all set. All right, so we're almost complete here. All four wheels have been rotated. They have all been torqued down to 83 foot-pounds. The center caps have been put back in, but before we take it on a test drive, we're gonna go ahead and fill up each of the tires and make sure they're at their correct pressure. This is just like a little mobile tire inflator. You plug it into your cigarette lighter, and you can actually put what PSI you want it. So per the door seal, it says 32 PSI, so it is set to 32 PSI right there. We're gonna go ahead and hook it up and start it. So apparently it does not deflate if your tire is overflated. So these were at 34 PSI. So if I want it down to 32 PSI, I would have to manually deflate to get to that PSI and then hook it back up to check it to make sure we're at 32. And if it was lower, then it would then add that air to get to that 32 PSI. So I'm not too concerned about it. We're just gonna keep it at 34 and keep rolling. All right guys, so that's gonna complete it for this tire rotation on this 2014 GX460. I just took it around the block. Everything feels nice and straight, even under braking, it stayed in a straight line and didn't pull one way or another. So I will say that is a success. All tires are at 34 PSI. I know it says factory on the side is 32 PSI. You can go over that because the tire can actually facilitate more. But I'd like to hear from you. Do you go with factory spec, or do you go a little bit more or a little bit less PSI in your tires? Let me know in the comments below. Also, if you have any constructive criticism that will help anybody else that watches this video, or something that I might have missed that you could do better, obviously, as far as jacking the vehicle up, I did check my jack stands. They are 16.5 inches. So I would assume that you're gonna need 2 to 3 more inches taller than that to be able to get the wheels off the ground and not have to jerry rig it like I did and use the plywood. Also, if you have any questions about the tools I used today, just leave those in the comments below and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. So thank you again, everyone, for watching. If you made it this far, if you haven't already done so, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. There's gonna be more videos with the GX460 coming up, along with the Volkswagen and my project Xterra. And if you found this video helpful, please give it a like, share it if you want to, and as always, thank you for watching.